In a quiet suburb of Georgia, what began as an ordinary Monday afternoon soon descended into a scene of unimaginable horror. A frantic phone call from a frightened child set in motion a chain of events that would shake an entire community to its core. Behind the doors of a modest duplex, police uncovered a crime so brutal and senseless that it would haunt investigators for years to come. A harrowing tale built on half-truths and deception. Yet through it all, detectives remained steadfast in their pursuit of justice for those whose lives were shattered. Loretta Spencer, also known as Lottie, was at work when she got a panicked call from her 10-year-old daughter, Christina, begging her to come home right away because something terrible had happened. Lottie, a single mother who had been dealing with a stalker for more than a year, instantly feared the worst. She jumped into her car and sped toward the duplex she shared with Carmen Smith and her young son, Nicholas. When she arrived, police and paramedics were already there. In the terrifying moments that followed, Lottie learned that Carmen was dead and 5-year-old Nick was barely hanging on. As the boy was lifted into the ambulance, she could see he was covered in blood. As the investigation began, detectives found out that Carmen and her son lived in the downstairs apartment, while Lottie and her daughter stayed upstairs. Even though Lottie and Christina hadn't lived there very long, the two families had quickly become close friends. A timeline of the day of the murder showed that Carmen spoke with her ex-husband at 7:30 a.m., shortly after Lottie left for work, and the children went to catch the school bus. The two had an argument before ending the call, which was not unusual given their difficult divorce. The children arrived home from school shortly after 3 p.m. As usual, after letting themselves in, Christina went upstairs while Nick went downstairs to look for his mother. Nick later said he was suddenly grabbed by someone wearing all black and a mask. The attacker, who he thought was a man, began stabbing him in the chest several times. The last thing he remembered was everything fading to black as he passed out. Hearing the noise, Christina came downstairs to see what was happening. When she saw the masked figure, she ran out of the house to find help. Around that time, she made the frantic call to her mother. When police arrived at the scene, they found Nick lying on the bedroom floor. Though his attacker had tried to kill him, he was still alive. Nearby, they found a knife with its blade broken off from the violent assault. At the hospital, doctors discovered that the boy had been stabbed 18 times in the chest. On the bed under a pile of blankets, officers found Carmen Smith's body. It was clear she had been dead for several hours. A piece of cord on the floor was collected as the possible murder. Weapon. Investigators also found several short black hairs on Carmen's body, which were taken for forensic testing. Sadly, DNA technology at the time wasn't advanced enough to identify who they belonged to. The medical examiner found that Carmen had been stabbed twice in the back with an ice pick or a similar sharp object. The injuries were shallow and, while painful, wouldn't have caused her death. She also had scrapes on her face that looked like carpet burns, suggesting she was dragged across the floor while lying face down. Marks on her neck showed that something had been used to strangle her, and bruises on her wrists indicated she had been handcuffed at some point. Her death was officially ruled a homicide caused by ligature strangulation. When detectives found out that Carmen had a troubled relationship with Nick's father, Mike, he quickly became a person of interest. Deeply shaken by the violent attacks, Mike cooperated fully with investigators. His alibi wasn't perfect, but after detectives watched how he interacted with Nick in the hospital, they ruled him out as a suspect. The main source of tension between him and Carmen had been his wish to spend more time with his son. Although the two often disagreed, everyone who knew them believed Mike would never hurt Carmen or Nick, who meant the world to him. The man Carmen had been dating in the weeks before the murder was also interviewed. But like her other former partners, he was quickly ruled out as a suspect. When detectives spoke with Lottie Spencer, she directed their attention to the person she was sure was responsible for the attack in her home. In her mind, the only one capable of such violence was her stalker, Wasim Daker. At the time, 30-year-old Lottie had met 17-year-old DA in 1994. While they were both part of the same paintball team, acting as a mentor and mother figure to the younger players, she had taken the troubled teen under her wing. However, DA misunderstood her kindness, believing it was romantic. When Lottie told him she only saw him as a friend, he refused to accept it. Lottie said that over the next few months, Da constantly flooded her phone with hundreds of unwanted calls and messages. He also began showing up without warning at her home and workplace, refusing to leave her alone. When it became clear that his obsession was growing worse, Lottie reached out to his mother and brother, hoping they would step in and help. Their reaction, however, wasn't what she had hoped for. Instead of showing concern, they reportedly told her that he was sick and delusional, but claimed he wasn't dangerous. Things took a terrifying turn when Lottie said she found DA naked and holding a gun, hiding in her daughter's closet. She was able to convince him to hand over the weapon before anyone was hurt. But the incident left her deeply shaken. Instead of calling 911 as most people would, Lottie contacted his mother and brother, asking them to come pick him up. She didn't want to cause problems for his well-known and wealthy family, believing that getting him psychiatric help would be better in the long run than having him locked up in county jail. During cross-examination, DA tried to get her to admit that they had been romantically involved, but she stood her ground no matter how much he pressed. She firmly stated they had only ever been friends. Prosecutors argued that Daker had carefully planned and carried out what was meant to be a double murder as revenge against Lottie for cutting him out of her life. After a 2E trial, the jury found him guilty on 11 counts, including felony murder, aggravated battery, malice murder, and false imprisonment. When sentencing him to life plus 47 1 to 2 years, the judge called Da a monster and a coward who should never walk free again. After the verdict, Lottie expressed deep regret for not going to the police sooner, admitting she hadn't realized how dangerous he truly was until it was too late. Although Lottie appeared genuine at the time, her later actions would leave both investigators and the public stunned. Those close to her said her mental health began to decline after the trial. Reports also surfaced that she had started communicating with DA while he was in prison. As time passed, she made a shocking public claim that she had been keeping secret for years. She admitted she had lied during her testimony. Completely reversing her story, Lottie now said that she and Da had actually been romantically involved since 1994. Though their relationship had been rocky and they often broke up, she insisted they had in fact been lovers. She went on to say that she had exaggerated many of her accusations against Da. While she admitted he had often flooded her phone with calls and messages, she now claimed he had never threatened her and her daughter's lives. Regarding DA's hair being found on Carmen's body, Lottie explained that she had lent her roommate several blankets, one of which had later been placed over Carmen after the murder. She stated that although she and Da hadn't been physically involved at her new apartment, they had met up a few times at her old house. She suggested that his hairs had stuck to the blanket during those encounters and later transferred to Carmen when the killer used the blanket to cover the crime. That unlucky circumstance put her in the sights of Wasim Daker, a place no one would ever want to be. Because of it, she was tortured and strangled to death in her own bedroom by a man she barely knew and had done nothing to. Miraculously, her young son, Nicholas Smith, survived the horrific attack that took both his mother and his childhood from him. Years later, determined to see justice done, he helped ensure that the man responsible was sent to prison, where he will likely spend the rest of his life. If you found this video compelling, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos. Thank you for watching.